Hey everybody, welcome to stream. My name is Teyo, and today we're doing something quite a bit different. Um, as such, let me know if the music is too loud or if I am too quiet. Yeah, we're doing something different today. Is the lighting too bright? There we go. That looks a little bit better. The thing we're doing today is story time and Q&A. So if you guys have any questions, ask them in the chat. I've got my phone over here because my computer is officially too far away to read. Yeah, and we'll just talk. We're gonna have a nice chat. It occurs to me. Let me set up something on stream really fast. I've got a mug of hot chocolate. I've got some delicious pretzels that someone gave me for Christmas today. Is that the Finch bed? It is in fact my bed in my bedroom, yes. We even have Christmas lights up. They're lightsabers because I don't have any Christmas lights. That's pretty much it. And you guys can see my full head today instead of me wearing headphones. But yeah, we're just gonna talk, tell stories, ask and answer questions. If you all have any questions in chat for me, let me know. And as far as stories to tell, I figured I would start with the basics. My name is Teyo. I'm from Louisiana originally. I'm the youngest of 4 kids. I've got super autism, and by super autism I just mean I was diagnosed when I was really young. And it's always been pretty apparent. These days I've improved a lot. Or improved isn't the word I'm looking for. I pass as a non-autistic person really effectively. You see 2 katanas, are they real? Where do you see katana? Oh yeah, I guess you do see katanas. So these are made out of, oh frick, what is it called? PVA? No, PVA is not what it's called. I can't remember what these are made out of, but they are made for sparring. Yeah, something, I guess this is a story I could tell at some point. I took HEMA classes for a while, or Historical European Martial Arts. And so at some point, I went to buy some replica stuff and some training stuff, and all they had were these kendo ones for, like, samurai sword training. Which I don't have any training or experience in any way possible. But I bought them anyways, because they were affordable and I was at a convention and I wanted to buy them. You're just looking forward to hanging out? Nice. Mom's here yet? Hot chocolate. Anyway. Oh hey. Ito, nice. Let me think. What are we going to talk about today? What was I in the middle of saying? I'm the youngest of 4. I have autism. Right, autism. Growing up, it was always like really hard to get stuff done the way normal people would. And whenever I went into high school, my sister grabbed my registration sheet, the stuff that like I was signing up for what classes or whatever. My sister grabbed it, scratched out something, and wrote down that I was going to take the theater class. Which I didn't want to do. I was an 8th grader with autism. Of course I didn't want to take the theater class. And I was like, no, I'm not doing that. And she's like, no, you are. And I like went to the school office. And I was like, hey, this is my paper, but it says I want to do theater, and I don't want to do theater. I want to do this. And she was like, that's too bad. It's written on there. You're going to do theater. And I was like, what the... So because I was forced into it, I got so much better at interacting with people and just masking and being more approachable and less obviously autistic, if that makes sense. Napkin stick to hot cocoa. Music's a tad loud, not super, maybe just. Okay. I can turn down the music from here. Boop. Music is turned down. But so, yeah, autism was the thing. Theater helped a lot, but the thing that helped even more than theater, much more than theater, is that I was interested in trying to play Dungeons and Dragons, but I lived in the middle of nowhere in the South. And so no one wanted to play Dungeons and Dragons. Most people didn't know what it was, and all the people who did know what it was thought it was of the devil. And so I never got to play. I couldn't find any information about it. And then my junior year of high school, there was a student teacher who was working at my school who was also into D&D, and he wanted to start like a club of sorts, and so he gave me all the books to read. And instead of doing what a normal person does, which is to say, like, read the basics or learn how to build a character, I literally just, like, read all of the player's handbook and all of the monster manual and most of the Dungeon Master's Guide in one sitting. Over the course of 2 weeks, I read all of those books. And then we played D&D. And it was really fun, and I really enjoyed it, and there was a moment that got me hooked on it in the first time we played. And by the third session or so, the guy was like, hey, I've got to go. I don't want to hang out with minors and play D&D with them. And now that I've taught you guys, you should be the DM. And he gave me the starter kit, and he pieced out, and I DM'd all the games of Dungeons & Dragons I've played since. Not all of them. Obviously, I've played since then. But I have mostly DM'd games of D&D, and that was where my autism went. What's the word? Became much more manageable, and I worked with people way more than that, way more effectively, because D&D is literally just like 6 people sitting around a table doing social interaction. Hey Rex, good to see you. Just so you know, today we're doing a Q&A and story time. Right now I'm just talking about my autism and how I seem so not autistic to a lot of people. You're an ad jail, nice. Merry Christmas, everybody, by the way. I've just got some hot chocolate and some toffee pretzels, and so I'm just going to hang out and talk to you guys tonight. What else is in the katana hamper? A bunch of random crap. It's come to my realization over time that a lot of men have the sword bucket or the stick bucket, where you have like a cardboard box or a bucket in your room full of like sticks and like cool swords and nonsense like that. Yeah, Merry Christmas to you too, Rex. Thank you. So like, here, I'll give you the tour of mine. Giant rubber chicken. A bunch of these PVC pipes. I use them to shoot Nerf darts out of, and I spin them around sometimes. Usually the lightsabers are in there, but today they're Christmas decorations. An umbrella, a Nerf gun, and an actual sword. That's what's in the bucket right now. You have to start your sword bucket soon, yeah. But yeah, do you guys have any questions? The topics I've brought up so far are D&D, autism, and upbringing in the South. So if you guys have any questions about those things or about other stuff you've been wondering, today's the day to ask. Show the actual sword? Alright. Do you think I'll get in trouble for that with Twitch? Twitch is fine with swords, right? This is what I call a mall sword, or kind of like a crappy one. I've had nice swords before, especially whenever I did HEMA and stuff. But this is just a lame little arming sword that a friend of mine got me from a flea market, because it was my birthday and this reminded him of me, which is really sweet. It was really kind of him. It is technically real edge sharp or whatever. It's not very sharp, it's like axe sharp at best. Yeah, pretty pointy though. Very stabbable tip. Twitch, this is a prop. Don't unsheath it. Oh, well. Too late for that, brother. But I use it for conventions and stuff most of the time. Or, like, Renaissance festivals. Because it's too wimpy to do any sort of, like, sparring or whatever with. But it looks really good. It has a nice sheath set up. I've got a belt for hanging it on my person. Stay. Okay. But, yeah, let's see. Things about me that are important to my life. Autism is not my only mental disorder, but I don't really want to talk about just bad stuff. But if you guys want to know about mental disorders, that's something I can speak a lot on. I've got most of a degree in psychology. I'm waiting for another 6 to 10 months to go back to school so I can finish it. How did me and Finch meet? Oh yeah, the Finch and Teyo backstory. Sure. So basically, I was in a comedy group at college. The comedy group did sketch comedy, and we had auditions every semester at the beginning of the semester. And Finch was in a writing class, and someone said, "Hey, who wants to be a writer for this comedy group?" And Finch was like, "I'll go. But I won't have to socialize too much. I'll just be doing writing and stuff." So she goes to auditions, and I'm at auditions helping with things. I introduce myself because I see them, and my very first thought is, that kid's got autism. And so I talked to them, and I was like, oh, sweet, they're probably going to get in because they're really good at what they were doing at the auditions. And so from that point on of me realizing they were going to get in, I was like, okay, you and I are going to be good friends now. And at the time, I was in a really serious relationship, and so I wasn't looking for anything. And Finch was trying their best to avoid becoming friends with anyone at the time because they were really angsty at the time. And then literally, like, we became pretty good friends. I helped them when they were really sick. Like, I brought over some soup and orange juice and stuff. And then we were just friends for several years. And then that really important, strong relationship ended 2020... What? It's 2024 right now. Man, I always mess up the year. In 2023, that relationship ended, the serious one that I was in for a long time. And Finch and I started dating at the beginning of this year in January. And yeah, we basically would just like talk on the phone all the time after that breakup happened. And we just became closer and closer. And at some point we were like, we should probably date because we kind of want to get married to each other. And so like, it would be really weird if we just jumped straight to that and never dated. The classic taking care of someone when they're sick from anime. Well, the thing is Finch was like really sick and they didn't want to ask for help. But we had a group chat of all of the comedy club people. And so they put in the group chat, hey, you guys were talking about how if we needed something just to ask for it, I'm really sick and I need like soup or something. Can anybody help out with that? And immediately, like before any time passed at all, me and like 3 other people texted back. We're like, yeah, I'm on my way. We'll bring some stuff. Like the message was in the thing for like 2 seconds before a bunch of people like tried to show up and help out. But yeah, everybody in the group wanted to help out Finch because we liked Finch, and the group was like a family at the time. We really enjoyed each other's company. But yeah, it was pretty cool. I wonder if I have never tried these pretzels. They're butter toffee from Trader Joe's. And I've only been to Trader Joe's like once in my life, so I wonder if these are any good. They were a gift for Christmas. These are weird. These are super weird. What are these? They just taste like pretzels and butter. These aren't sweet at all. These are weird. Trader Joe's, obviously not a sponsor. Yeah, Finch, how's your Christmas been? You've just been in a car all day, haven't you? Good weird or weird weird? It's okay. It literally just tastes like butter and pretzels. Which, to be honest, is not a bad flavor, but I expected it to be like, I don't know, sweet? Or like, more like toffee, less like butter. You got chocolate pretzels? Hell yeah, brother. I love chocolate pretzels. Oh yeah, did your brother like my gift? So, I sent with Finch a couple of QR code stickers. Actually, give me 1 second. So this is my old laptop. There's a QR code right here, right? And it takes you directly to the Rick Roll song, the Never Gonna Give You Up song. And so I had a bunch of those stickers left over, and I would put them places. Or my favorite was to put two near each other and say, oh yeah, one of them's a Rick Roll, the other one's something else. Give it a shot. But they were both Rick Rolls. That was really funny. Anyways, to get to the point, I gave some to Finch to give to her brothers. Show chat, let me scan it. Absolutely not. They called it right before they scanned it. Of course they did. It's the most obvious QR code, but you can't resist. You know what I mean? Your brain sees it and you're like, oh, it's definitely Never Gonna Give You Up. And then you think, what if it isn't? And then you scan it and you're like, frick! You still want to scan it? I'll send you a picture in Discord if you really want. I just don't want to do the whole mess of like holding it to the camera just for it not to work, you know? Anyways, okay, let me think. What's a good story to tell? I suppose a really solid story is my first game of Dungeons and Dragons. Your FOMO would not allow you not to scan it. I feel that deep in my soul, dude. But so basically, it was a group of people from my high school and one of our teachers who was teaching us how to play. And we went to like a local bookstore / coffee shop type place. And we got a table and we all sat around and we began to talk about our characters and introduce stuff. And it was a very classic, simple D&D first thing, where you go and you fight goblins, you go to a town, the town has bandits, if you want you can fight the bandits, so you can reason with the bandits, and there's a bandit headquarters, and you can break into it, and blah 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 blah. And so, in the very first session, we fight a couple of goblins, we go into a cave. And we're like, how do we know this cave is the cave of the goblins? And our DM was like, oh, there's a giant like LED sign with blinking lights that says, this is the Goblin Cave. And so that was really funny. It was a very railroad campaign, but we were all okay with it because none of us knew what we were doing. And so we go into the Goblin Cave. We get into this one spot where there's like a stone bridge across a big open cylinder of a room. And the stone bridge goes from one room to another room. We're in this one. We're going across to the other room, right? And the other room didn't have a door. It was just like an archway, and it was dark. And so my wizard cast light on his staff, poked it into the darkness, and stepped into the darkness. And my DM was like, hey, you're just gonna put up a light spell and walk right into the darkness. And I was like, yeah, why shouldn't I? And he's like, okay, if you're sure. And by the way, if your DM ever says, okay, if you're sure, don't do that thing that's a threat. Are you sure you want to do that means you will pass away if you do this. As someone who said it to so many people. But anyway, so I'm like, yeah, of course, why wouldn't I do that? And I walk in, and he's like, cool. You trip a trap that the goblins have set, and suddenly thousands of gallons of water come pouring down, shove you off the side of the bridge, and you hit the ground. You take, and he rolls a bunch of dice, X number of bludgeoning damage. And I'm like, my wizard has 7 hit points. We're level 1. I die. Like, I instantly die. I don't even go to 0 because it was way more than my hit points total, and so I just instantly die. And the DM goes, so, do you guys want to rewind and pretend that never happened and you approach the darkness differently? And I go, yes, please. So the first 20 minutes of the game, my character dies. And so I think to myself, this game seems pretty fun, and there are some funny moments so far, like the light leading to the goblin cave. But I wasn't sure about it yet. And then, yeah, insta-death. It was great. And then we went to the bandit hideout. And there's a couple of bandits standing guard, and so we went to town. We found the bandits in town. We knocked them out or killed them or whatever, and we took their cloaks. And the party at the time was 2 tall characters, me and like a half-orc guy, and a dwarf and a halfling. And we only took 1 cloak because I think that's all that they had. And the cloak was like the insignia of their thing. They were called the Red Cloaks or something. And so we go to this hideout, which is like this huge mansion on a hill, and we're like, okay, let's do the stormtrooper thing, where we dress up as the bandits. We get somebody and we say, hey, we caught this guy trying to break in. We're going to take him in and put him in the jail cell or whatever. Classic stormtrooper thing. And we're like, but if we do that, we only have 1 person on the outside and 3 people arrested, and that's not good. And so the halfling and the dwarf are like, wait a second. Have the halfling stand on the dwarf's shoulders, put a cloak over the both of us, and we'll do the 2 people in a trench coat thing, and we'll carry in the other 2 as the prisoners. And so as soon as I said that, I started laughing because it was really funny, but like, we tried it. We went to the front gate, and we were talking to the people, and the halfling on top, who was played by the most chaotic girl in the entire high school, she's like, hey, we have these prisoners, this sounds goofy. It was so goofy. We have these prisoners, and the guy was like, I don't know who you are, I've never met you, and you guys look so concerning. I don't know if I trust this. And so the DM was like, make a persuasion check. She rolls a natural 20. Instant success, and the guys are like, oh, you must be so-and-so, the new hire. Sure, yeah, come in. So we go to the basement where the thing is. We put in the cage me and the half-orc, and the other 2 guys down there are like, hey, wait a second, we've never met you before. And the DM is like, make another persuasion check. She rolls a natural 20. And so we're losing it. And the 2 guys are like, okay, you work with us, but since we haven't met you, sit down at this table, let's play a game of poker. And so the 2 people in a trench coat sit down to play a game of poker with them. And one of the guys has the keys on his key belt. And so the girl is gambling and talking to them. And the dwarf underneath is like, I'm going to try to reach over and pickpocket the guy and take the keys. And so they have him make a sleight of hand check. The dwarf rolls a natural 1, which if you don't know means an automatic failure, the way a natural 20 means an automatic success. Rolls a natural 1. The DM describes, okay, you fondle his thigh trying to find the key. You fondle this guy's thigh, and the halfling girl on top of his shoulders was like, wait a second, and like looks at the guy and is like, I want to seduce him. I want to persuade him that this is on purpose, and I'm like fondling his leg with my foot or something. And the DM is like, okay, but it'll be a really high check. It's unlikely this will work. This might lead to combat. Make a persuasion check. And she rolls a natural 20 for the 3rd time in a row. And the table loses it. We all laugh like crazy. And I'm like, okay, D&D seems pretty fun and cool and stuff. This is pretty funny. But then, the two of them, dressed as one person in a trench coat, takes this guard into a little bedroom to the side. And the guard, like, turns his back on them and begins to take off his pants. And he turns back around, and his pants are around his ankle. The dwarf flies out of the trench coat, crushes his skull with a mace, gets a natural 20, so he crits, kills him in a single hit. The halfling picks up the keys, and they walk out of the room. It's so funny. I can't believe they did this. They walk out of the room with both of them wearing a cloak, which, by the way, they're now short again, so they don't look like people anymore. And the dudes, like, look at them and they're like, why are you short now? Who is this guy? And the guy's like, oh, I'm the guy who left with her. So we're like, okay, make a deception check. If it's not a natural 20, this will not succeed. And he rolls a natural 20. They're convinced that the man who walked back there shrunk 3 feet and grew a beard. They proceed to do that same trick they did before with the other guy to seduce him and bring him to a different room. And by the time they rolled another natural 20 to get him out, the half-orc had already broken the lock on the cage, stepped out, and choked him to death. And so in that moment, I was like, I'm hooked. If this is what D&D is about, I'm playing D&D forever. It's the new best game in the world. And I'm right, it is the best game in the world. But that was the moment that I got hooked. That was the moment where I was like, okay, this is actually the most fun you can have with friends. You know what I mean? Like, and again, in my first session, it was like a 2.5-hour session. We went from my character dying in 20 minutes, killing a bunch of goblins, convincing bandits that we wanted to seduce them, and then instantly killing them with critical hits. It was the most fun ever. It was such a good time. And a couple sessions later, my DM was like, hey, you're the DM now. And I did that forever, and I've always enjoyed DMing after that. I'm one of the few people who likes DMing way more than I like playing D&D. It's so much fun. I love seeing players do goofy, ridiculous shenanigans like that. But anyway, that's my story of how I got into D&D. If you guys have any questions or want to ask about a specific story, lay it on me. I turn the time to you. Ask your questions. Ask your Q's. I'll give some A's. I want to drink some hot chocolate for a moment. And Aubrey, welcome in. Merry Christmas. I'm glad you're here. Also, you mentioned new camera angle. This setup is so goofy, dude. So the way I'm achieving this is I've gotten my desk. I've angled it out. I went to the just face setting. I made it bigger, obviously, right? Whole screen of camera. And then I got my table from the living room and I set it up in here. I have my lamp over here. My light turned right at me. 2 lightsabers back there for Christmas lights. And my wired mouse is like 6 feet away from the computer. Teyo podcast real? Yeah, exactly. What inspired me to stream, or what advice would you give to someone starting to stream? Oh, that's a really good question. That mouse is dying. It's doing its best. Okay. So those are 2 questions. So firstly, what inspired me to stream? So a couple years ago, I thought I should make content. I love people. I love improv. I love interacting with people. I love YouTube. These are all things I think I would enjoy and be at least decently good at. I was afraid of editing, and I still am not very good at editing, and I don't enjoy it very much. But making content, making ideas is something I've done for ages. I've worked in theater for a long time. I've done a bunch of different comedy clubs at my college. And so getting into content creation was kind of a natural progression. But I was kind of a wuss about it. I didn't own a computer. I didn't have the materials, so I thought I'm just not gonna worry about it. And I tried little bits, and then a lot of bad stuff happened in my life, and so I just completely gave up. And I lived with my parents for about 6 months in 2023. And my dad was talking to me, and he, unprompted out of nowhere, said, "You know, I've been thinking about it. I think you should make videos." And my dad never gives me advice like that, and he never jumps in with random stuff, and I never told him I wanted to. And at that moment, and he told me he thought I would do a really good job at it, and my whole life he said I should be like a stand-up comedian or something, which I never thought would go anywhere. But he mentioned that I should just go ahead and do that and just start doing it. So I thought, yeah. So I start making some YouTube videos on my crappy laptop. It doesn't go anywhere because it's so hard to edit. And so I start saving some money. I buy my nice computer. And when I get back up here where Finch is at, and we start living near each other again, and I'm not living with my parents anymore, at some point Finch was just like, "Why don't you just try streaming?" And I was like, "That's a good point. There's no editing. There's all the improv. There's all the stuff I enjoy. Maybe I'll stream." And then Finch was like, "And it would be an excuse to make you play Genshin, because then you have a new player perspective, and people will watch because you're new and you don't know what's going on." And I was like, "Well, that's a good idea. I know you're tricking me into playing Genshin." And it worked. And I like Genshin now, and we play a lot of Genshin on stream. But that's basically the story. I wanted to for a while to do YouTube and editing and content creation, and eventually streaming just made more sense. It was easier on me, on my workload, and after I did it the first time, I thought, this has got to be my lifelong goal. I've got to have a goal of making this my full-time job. This is the least tired I've ever been after working something. I love it. It's the only job I've ever worked where I don't feel burnt out right afterwards. Streaming is something I really enjoy, way more than I ever thought that I would. Aubrey Teyo collab win. What? But to answer your second question of advice I would give to new streamers, there's two pieces of advice. There's the piece of advice that everyone gives, which is just start doing it, which is probably the best advice. If you want to get good at anything or do anything, you should just start. If you want to get better at drawing, don't practice tomorrow, practice right now. Pull out a piece of paper and start drawing. Sure, there's lots of specific advice you could get, like going on YouTube and learning how to draw, or going on YouTube and looking up tutorials of how OBS works, or how Stream Elements works, right? But realistically, if you want to get good at something, you should start yesterday, right? The best time to plant a tree is 20 years ago, and the next best time is right now. Now, here's the other piece of advice that people don't give as much because it's much harder to follow, but it will show you more success. And I don't follow it as much, which is one of the reasons I'm not as successful. But it is what it is. I'm not perfect. And that piece of advice, which I wish I would follow more, is simply put forth the best product you are physically capable of putting forth. If you can put forth a crappy video every single day, sure, that's better than no videos. But if you can put forth a really nice video every week, that's better. If you can put forth high quality content, it will keep people on websites, it will keep people on your websites, and it will make you more money, get you more popular, etc., etc., etc. If that's not the path you want to take, and that sounds too hard, and making really quality stuff is challenging, then do what I'm doing and try to enjoy yourself and put forth as much you enjoying yourself content as you can. And eventually your niche will be found. It'll be much slower. I'm taking the slowest route possible. But those are my two pieces of advice. Get to work and keep improving and keep making the highest quality stuff you can, if that makes sense. That tree thing's amazing advice, TBH. Yeah, I'm glad you like it. I learned it from a guy who cut down trees for a living. And he always said, yeah, the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago, and the next best time is right now. And I live by that. If I haven't been doing something for ages, I should just start doing it. And if I do it consistently, inevitably I'll get better. And I think that's another important part of streaming and content creation that people talk about a little bit, and that is consistency. It doesn't have to be consistency like every single day like I do. It could be consistency like once a week or once a month. But whatever it is, if you're consistent, that's better. Same with if you find a niche, like how I make a lot of Genshin content because I found a niche of people who watch Genshin content. it would be hard for me to suddenly start doing videos about sports, right? Um, if that makes sense. This should be turned into a video. I'd watch it again, technically. Yeah, no, I intend to turn this one into a video. So I guess late, but hi, YouTube. um, but yeah, I intend to turn this one into a video, or at the very least clip it to death and make a bunch of little chunks because I think it'll be a good one. Anyways, what was I saying? Yeah, that's my answer to your questions, Rex. I think really the best advice is get to work and put forth the best that you can with what you have and what you can afford to have, right? If you can get a nice camera and a nice mic and a nice lighting setup, like if you can afford all that, you should do it. If you can't afford it, get the thing you can afford. But if you can put forth better content, you should, right? If you want more specific advice, I use OBS because I like it, and I use DaVinci for all my editing because it's really high quality, and there's lots of tutorials online, and it's free. It's like the highest quality free editing service. DaVinci is what they use for movies and stuff. It's really nice. Also, the Aubrey Teyo collab thing was about you saying you want to stream eventually. Yeah, you should. I think, to be real with you, if you're the type of personality for it, streaming is really fun. It depends, of course, on what you're trying to do. And if you do have the personality for it. I've done improv for years, and I love just talking to people and having a good time and being conversational. And so streaming is perfect for me. It's my ideal job now. And I used to want to be like a psychologist and work with people in that way, but I really love doing this. But that's me. You might be different. Streaming is fun, though. I really enjoy it. You don't even need a camera, just do faceless. Yeah, exactly. I actually, whenever I started streaming, Finch and I were really thinking about making me like a PNG tuber, like the, like an image of just like a drawn version of me, and then another image of every time I spoke, that version of me, but like lit up or with my mouth moving or whatever. And we made the models for it. If you go to my Discord, my profile picture is one of the models for it. We almost did that. We even set it up and got the software working. And I think I might have even made a single video like that. But at the end of the day, we were just like, it makes more sense to just use your face. And I'm not bothered by my face, even though I don't like the way that I look or like the way that I sound or any of those things. I don't mind, you know what I mean? It doesn't bother me for people to know what I look like. You had a friend who offered to help you with that. They're a super good artist and commissioned them in the past. Oh, cool. That's a nice resource to have. Finch is my resource because she's an amazing artist, and every time I need something done that's easy and I don't feel too bad for, I'll just ask her to do it. It's the significant other privilege. The free labor privilege. If I had money, I would pay it, but I don't. And I never ask for anything complex. Why am I defending myself? Ads are over? Nice. We're just talking about you, Finch. And about how you made me a PNG tuber thing for a while. Pay her in food. That is true. I do cook everything Finch eats. Oh, actually, today I made some chicken katsu. Like for the first time, like actually made it the correct way. Oh, it was so good. If you had money, you'd give $500 today. You don't. That's, I mean, fair. Merry Christmas to you too. Yeah, I get that, dog. I wish I could just give people money that they needed or that they wanted. It would be such a nice way to live. I wish I had a ton of money so I could just be like, your car broke down? That's horrible. Here you go. And just give them $1,000. You know what I mean? That'd be so nice. You do draw, you do editing, do film stuff, and the mic lights are technically yours. Nuh-uh, the mic and lights are mine now. I've been using them longer than you've even owned them. The spirit of giving but not having the money. Yeah, me too. You're such a good utility. Yeah. Yeah, I'm the DPS in the tank, and Finch is the utility caster of this relationship. Control and heal spells and stuff like that. Yeah, any other questions? Rex, I really liked that question. That was a good one. I'm going to scroll back and chat for a second to see what I missed. Oh yeah, I asked Finch, what should I play? And you answered with your special interest. At least you didn't answer with your frickin' your cat simulator game. I would. I'm so glad I didn't play that on stream. You've never heard of relationships described that way. You love it. I mean, it kind of makes sense, right? Like, in relationships, two people fill roles. You know what I mean? And I don't mean gender roles. I don't mean like the mom cooks and takes care of babies and the dad makes money. I mean like they fulfill roles in general, gendered or otherwise, right? So like often one of them makes a little bit more money or works a little bit more or has some kind of a thing that they have access to that the other one doesn't. Like, for instance, talents, like the ability to cook or the ability to do homemaking stuff. Like whenever I buy meat, I get a cheap cut of meat and then I cut it into more expensive cuts, and that's something that I can bring to relationships is saving money and cooking and stuff. And other people bring other things like resources or what's the word? What am I looking for? Like mental stuff, like therapy and helping the other person feel better and feel accomplished and fulfill their needs, so to speak. Hey, thanks for the follow, Billy. I appreciate it. Any question you're trying to think of? It's a very theater of mind game. Would have been dull to stream. Wait, what? Oh, the cat game. I heard theater of the mind, and I was like, D&D's not dull to stream. There's a huge market for that. Because in D&D, there's a term called theater of the mind, but that's not important. Hey, Billy. Merry Christmas. We're just doing a Christmas Q&A and story time. This is the first time I've done something like this. I've been streaming for a year now, and I figured we'd do something special on Christmas. And I'm too poor to give out stuff, so... But yeah, welcome to the channel. We usually stream stuff like Genshin Impact and Baldur's Gate 3, random video games like that. You've had a bad week? Aw, I'm sorry to hear that. That sucks. My week has been pretty medium, too. I've had a pretty good day today for Christmas. A family invited me over and they had crab legs, so I ate a bunch of crab legs. My day couldn't be bad if I ate a bunch of crab legs. Oh gosh, Billy, that's really rough. I'm so sorry to hear it. Man, that's trash. That's horrible. Actually, I guess in the spirit of story time, this is something I've never told chat for the year that I've streamed. I'm actually divorced. I've been married before. We were married for 4 years. And so, yeah. I obviously can't perfectly understand how you're feeling, Billy, especially because I don't know you at all. But that kind of a situation is horrible. It's rough. You asked a question I didn't even see. What's your question? What's my favorite Pokemon? That's a really good question, and not as simple as you think it is. Because there's a couple of answers to this. There's like favorite by meta standards of playing the video game, favorite by meta standards of playing the trading card game, favorite by looking at it and going, that's my favorite, and then like a couple of other smaller, less important categories. But to answer most fully, probably Dragonite. I love him. He's a big round boy, and he's powerful and goofy, and I love him so much. Dragonite is the best. And his evolution line is so funny. Snake. Pretty Snake. Fat dragon man that looks like Barney. I love him so much. New Teyo lore drop and a deep one on that. Yeah. There's some lore for you. I used to be married. What was I saying? Right, Dragonite. He's the bomb. Followed probably by Ditto, because I just love Ditto as a concept, and he's just a cute, goofy little guy. What's another one? Those are probably my top two, though. There's a bunch of random ones that I like for various reasons, like Breloom, the little mushroom hat guy from Hoenn, because I played Emerald Green once for like 12 hours or something. And he was my best Pokemon I had on that game. I really liked him. I play the TCG. I do, not a lot. My roommate plays like competitively. He went to, what's it called? San Francisco? No. Some city in California to do the the big event a couple of months ago. He's really into the TCG. I do play the TCG Pocket. I actually really like it. Every night at 11, I'll open it up so I can do my my pulls. Used to collect Dratini in Pokemon Go for me. Oh yeah, I remember that. I used to play Pokemon Go a lot. You probably wouldn't be able to guess yours. It's an oddball one. If it's Blossom, it would be hilarious. I should give you your friend code. Ah, bet. For Pocket, I assume. Man, what was I saying? Yeah, I really like TCG Pocket. Aubrey, in your TCG Pocket, what's your meta deck you use? What's your best deck you use in the tournaments and the like solo play and stuff? This is some thick hot chocolate. Lapras Vaporeon. Mine is similar deck. It's the Articuno Lapras deck with Misty. It's mostly Articuno, but I have Laprases as backups. The Lapras EX from the event. Yeah, it works pretty well. Use Vaporeon Misty to generate and move around energies. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not so sure about Vaporeon, to be honest. But its ability is pretty good with Misty. I don't know. I feel like I'd rather have Misty's energies just go on to a Pokemon that can just do stuff. But I do get the appeal of wanting to move around energy and stuff right before a Pokemon gets knocked out or whatever. You Oonga Boonga with anything? Fair. You just use base Lapras for the big Hydro Pump. Fair. I prefer the EX Lapras just because it's a tank and gaining HP is super nice in some matchups. And Articuno in the back. Yeah, Articuno EX is like my favorite of the water Pokemon for that. My roommate does Star You, Star Me, Lapras, I think. Similar, same thing basically. Let me think. I also have the whole Mewtwo deck. I just don't like playing it as much. It's pretty consistent, it works. I just don't like it as much. Let me think. You wish you had EX, just base? Ah, too bad. Yeah, I almost said have a good shower. Have a good night, Fusion. We'll see you another time. Thanks for coming. And if you're done with your shower and you come back, sweet. How do you do Pokemon Pocket on computer? Is that a thing? You waiting for your second Celebi EX for that deck? Dude, the Celebi EX deck is ridiculous. It's so good. Okay, hey, good to see you. When did you get VIP? Ages ago. Back when I figured out what the heck VIP was, I gave it to all the people who were in most of the streams. I think I gave it to like Ryder, Laney, M4, Aubrey, and you, and Finch. Hate going against it, love you. Is it fair? Yeah. Celebi EX is a pain in the butt. It's really good. Probably an emulator thing. You have to look into it. Alright, I'll look into it. Yeah, there's got to be a way, right? I just know it's like a really barren app that like is attached directly to your phone. And there's no option to like log out and put in another login information. So I wonder if you could even log into my account on a computer. Probably not. It's a really like bare bones basic app. You had a Celebi do 250 damage to you. You forfeit it after. You're so mad. My opponents always flip heads on everything. It's so frustrating, dude. But yeah, Superior is a real Pokemon, dude. That thing's messed up. Okay. For anybody new, like Kay who just jumped in, we're doing a questions and answers, and we're doing story time. So if you guys have any questions, want to hear any specific stories, ask away. Now is the big opportunity to learn about me if you wanted to. Or just hear fun stories if that's what you're here for. Either way. I wish these pretzels I got were better. They're the buttered toffee ones from Trader Joe's. A friend gave it to me for Christmas today. And they just taste like pretzels and butter. Which is okay. but I really like chocolate pretzels. So I was hoping they'd be like that. How was your life growing up? Did you have a good childhood? That's a hard question to answer. So, you don't know. That's the first thing that came to mind. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. It's a hard question to answer for a couple of reasons. Number one, because I don't remember my childhood super well. Before the age of 9, I don't remember a lot of actual formed memories. I'll get bits and pieces, like I think I was baptized around age 8, and I vaguely remember meeting with someone about it, and I vaguely remember like having a jar of water from the baptismal font that I got baptized in right afterwards, which was like a cool little neat little tradition we did. But like the point is I don't remember a lot from before I was 9. And so as far as childhood goes, I'm not sure because I don't remember a ton of it. And as far as like had a good one, that's a pretty hard thing to answer because like I feel like everybody's childhood has some parts that were like, oh my gosh, went to Disney World, it was so cool. And they have stuff like my parents mentally or like verbally said things to me that kind of ruined the way I think about myself now. And the worst part is as an adult, you come to learn that like your parents didn't mean that sort of thing. They never meant to traumatize or cause trouble, but rather were just people doing what they could, you know. I'm notably not defending anybody who did horrible things, right? But rather simply saying that, like, when you grow up, you come to realize how complex it is to say whether or not you had a good or a bad childhood. The memories I remember are pretty good, but I have a dissociative disorder that's based in childhood trauma usually, and I don't remember childhood trauma, so I also kind of lean to say I probably had a bad childhood that I don't remember. Which I'm grateful that it's not something I remember, but like it's still something that probably happened. I just don't know what. But yeah, I hope that answers your question. As far as growing up, I grew up in the South. I was pretty weird for where I grew up. So I'm originally from Louisiana, and I lived in Arkansas for a while for high school. And I had very differing opinions from the people around me. I'm not really liberal or conservative as an adult because I think politics are stupid and made to make the people hate each other. But at the time, I was a lot more liberal thinking and free thinking than the people around me. And so, like, I didn't have a lot of friends in high school. So, like, growing up was hard, but it was meaningful, and there's a lot of good things about it. Like the friends that I did have and the good experience I did have, you know what I mean? It's kind of a mixed bag. It's hard to just say it was good or bad, you know what I mean? You too, for you, it was a specific event that locked a lot of memories behind trauma stuff. Yeah, I totally get trauma. I get it. I've been diagnosed with a couple of different trauma disorders throughout my life, mostly as an adult, now that we've come to realize some things that we didn't know about before. You have a good question. What's your address? 427. No. Let's see. I've heard you can't remember your childhood because you just get forgetful, but they're being suppressed for you to live a normal life. Yeah, that sort of thing happens a lot. Really depends, you think? Yeah. Let's hope you're just forgetful. Yeah. Write that down. But I think 427 might be like the like address number of like one of my grandparents. I think, I don't remember. Anyways, not that you know anything else, but what was I saying? Right. Most people who can't remember their childhoods, it's just a matter of you were young and your brain doesn't retain those memories. And a lot of times that's because there was nothing meaningful that happened. So like, think about it this way. Try to remember 2 p.m. last Tuesday without thinking too hard about it. You probably can't remember it off the top of your head. If you really go back and think, okay, Tuesday I worked at 2 p.m., so therefore at 2 p.m. I was probably doing something related to work, you still can't remember specifically what it is. And so usually whenever you don't remember stuff as a child, it means you don't have a great memory, or it means nothing happened. You know what I mean? Like, you sat on a tablet, or you sat in front of a TV, or you spent time with your family, and nothing major happened, so there's not a lot to remember. So you remember random stuff like the time you went to Disney World, or the time your dad yelled at you, or whatever. And that's why trauma is so rough as a child, because a lot of children's lives aren't filled with a lot of memorable things. So when trauma happens, it gets so stuck because it's one of the only things you can remember, right? You don't remember the time your mom took you to the movies and you saw a film you don't remember. You just remember the time your mom was really mean, right? And the third reason why you wouldn't remember something is your brain has locked trauma away so it doesn't hurt you as an adult. But that is an uncommon thing. It does happen for sure, but it's a lot less common than the other ones. Probably Genshin. Oh wait, no, I was at school. Crap, wait, you're right. Yeah, that's what I'm saying, is like, if something memorable doesn't happen, it's hard to remember. Life has a lot of mundane moments. Not that that's a bad thing. Mundaneness is a good thing, honestly, most of the time. Especially as a child, because you don't want horrible memories of childhood, and it's unrealistic to only have tons of really good ones, and so not remembering a lot of it because it was mundane makes sense, right? Like, you went to preschool, you ate your food at home, you cried about not wanting to go to bed yet, and then you went to bed, and like, you know what I mean? It's pretty mundane. And so it makes sense for most people to not remember most of the parts of their childhood, because not a lot happened, you know? You were 8, right? Like, what does an 8-year-old really have to worry about? 2 p.m. yesterday, we did gift exchange at work. No, last Tuesday, the Tuesday before. But sure, yeah, you remember that. But what I'm saying is just like, pick a random time on a random day, and you probably can't remember it super well. Man, we got deep real quick with the stream be a bit longer. Maybe. I've got stuff going on tomorrow like I always do, and so it might not go too long, but I could definitely be convinced to do this again. I am enjoying this a lot. Frick, I just unlocked some deep crap from your childhood. Well, my apologies, and I hope that doesn't change anything meaningful, and that remembering it's not a big deal. Only thing you remember of your childhood is your parents are busy, though still same, so I was often being alone. Yeah. That's not bad, though. You kind of prefer it. Yeah, I know. Yeah. Let's see. My sister... So, I'm the youngest of 4. The 2 older siblings moved out whenever I was really young. And then my sister moved out when I was like, I don't know, 15. And so from the age of like 14 to 18 when I moved out, I was never with my family. All of my siblings were moved out. My parents worked all day until like, I don't know, they didn't get home until 7 or 8 p.m. most nights. And so like, I'd see them for like 30 minutes at the end of a day, and I would go to sleep, you know? Or I would go play video games or whatever I was doing at the time. But the point is that like, my family was busy, and so I spent a lot of time alone as a teenager. Which, with the internet, probably not great. Wish that like my life was different in that regard. But also like, not a huge problem. I just like lived, you know. I did mundane stuff like homework, or occasionally spending time with people, or whenever I got really into theater, I would stay after school and do theater for a long time. What does it feel like midnight? As far as that question, with where you're at, it's earlier than where I'm at. It probably just feels like midnight because it's dark and like you're just listening to me talk, you know? It's the classic, like, you relate midnight to staying up late and it being dark and having long, meaningful conversations. So having a long, meaningful conversation when it's dark, your brain goes, oh, it must be late, right? It's a classic thing of association that you don't mean to happen, but it happens. Speaking of memories, do you have a favorite memory with family or something, if it isn't too personal? Ooh, that's a good question. If it's bad memories, but I can just have to force to forget them again. Do your best to be healthy, but also do your best to be practical. I hope that if that's what you need to do, you can do it, and I hope if that's not what you need to do, you don't. But yeah, to answer your question, Really good best memory of family. Ooh, that's a hard one. I'm sure I've got a couple. I have a rough I have a rough time remembering things, especially important emotional things, because I have a dissociative disorder, and so I dissociate from important moments a lot of the times. And so like it's hard to answer that question, but I will try. The one I can think of right now, one of my happiest memories of all time, was the memory I explained earlier of getting hooked on D&D, because that really changed my life. It made me more sociable, made me better at talking to people, and it gave me a hobby that has been really important to me my whole life. So that moment of getting hooked on D&D was a really important one. Um, last year, whenever so last year when the divorce happened, or I guess yeah, 2023. Um, I lived with my parents for about 6 months, and it was the first time I had had a real conversation with my mom, a meaningful one where she took my side and we talked like adults, instead of like where she saw me as a child because I was a child, or where I saw her as unkind because again I was a child or whatever. And I didn't like it was the first time we really spoke and expressed our feelings in an important way, and the only time that I felt like I was really being listened to by her. And every morning she would give me a ride to work, and we'd grab some breakfast, and we both go to work together because we worked close by, so we carpool. And that was a really meaningful core memory for me now. Just last year, like spending time with my mom, it was really nice. It just built up slowly over time. There's not a specific moment, but rather like uh, a cumulative good memory of that. That was a really good one for me. Another time was just the middle of the night conversation where my dad said, "You should make content. You should become a YouTube creator." That was really good too. Oh, a really good one. I was like, I don't know, 10, and we went. So my dad was going to go with his brothers, so my uncles, and a friend. And they were going to go to the Gulf of Mexico. This is when we lived in Louisiana. And they were going to go doing some deep sea fishing. And they were going to do a fishing camp for like a whole weekend, like 5 days or something. And I was 10, and I don't know how I convinced him, but I did, to go with him. So I went with him. I did a lot of fishing with them. I made a lot of good memories. I have a bunch of stories from the actual camp, like individual, really fun stories that happened. But just that experience was really nice. Spending time with my dad, my uncles, and in fishing for like 5 days straight, and like going crabbing in the Gulf of Mexico, and just it was a really good time. We were fishing a lot where I was from, but going out and spending those 4 days just cooking and eating and fishing and hanging out with adults was a really cool experience for me as a little kid. Because I didn't have a lot of friends as a 10-year-old autistic kid, because I had the brain of an adult and the emotions of a table. And so it was really nice to hang out with people who were more emotionally mature. Okay, well, speaking of memories, do you have I already answered that. Song matching the vibe. Oh, nice. Music really kicked in for that. Oh, yeah. It's the FBI. Yeah, the FBI were like, "Ooh, a meaningful story, quick!" Ba 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 ba. Hooking me up. Thanks, Federal Bureau of Investigation. Appreciate you. Do you guys ever name your FBI agent? I named mine Daryl in high school. But yeah, I hope that answers your question. Those were really good memories for me. Actually, I'll tell you a couple of the fishing camp stories. We brought crawfish. We boiled crawfish on the dock, and we threw out all the shells off the dock, and it attracted a bunch of little shrimp. And all those little shrimp attracted little fish, and all those little fish attracted big fish. And there was a ton of alligator gars that would come up and try to eat the fish. An alligator gar is just a type of fish. It's a really big, spiny, hard to cut into fish that's an invasive species. And in Louisiana, there's a law that if you catch one, you have to kill it. You can't put it back live. You don't have to eat it, but you have to kill them. And so, little 10-year-old me, someone said, "Hey, if you drop bait right above an alligator gar's head and you wait a second, it'll bite onto it, you can hook it, and you catch it right away." And so I was like, "Oh, I can do that." And there's like 40 of them right there. That's really cool. So I dropped a line, picked up an alligator gar, was tin, so I couldn't unhook it. So I set down the fishing pole, ran over the boat, grabbed another fishing pole, ran over the spot, caught an alligator gar. And I repeated this process until we were out of fishing poles, and my dad was like running behind me, unhooking alligator gars, and then having to like kill them because you couldn't put them back alive. And we repeated this process, and the whole time he was like, "Stop grabbing new fishing poles." And I've caught probably 30 of them right there. And my dad, who hates wasting food, spent all night, like he stayed up until like 11 or 12 at night, just cutting up alligator gars into bits, and we cooked them the next day. It was really cool. But I just remember him falling behind me and at first he even said to somebody of like, he doesn't know how to unhook them. He'll only like catch the one. And then he saw me grab another fishing pole and he's like, oh no. And then it just became a slow motion sequence of him trying to stop me. Let's see. You feel in your soul they're a Frank or a Fred. I see Todd, 50-year-old man who likes to play pool. Carlos, 40-year-old dude that plays Genshin. And romance anime. Love it, love it. I love the FBI personalities we're building. But yeah, that was a really cool memory. There was also, while we were there, we went to this one spot on a boat. I cast out, I got a big bite, and then the line broke, and so the bobber just floated off into the reeds. And so we thought, well, that's too bad. And we fished for a little bit, and then we left, and we came back. And when we came back, like 8 hours later, the bobber was still there, and so we thought, well, let's go over by the reeds and pick up the bobber. But we decided to like go in kind of slow so as not to spook any sort of fish around there. And my uncle gets on the bottom of the boat, grabs onto the bobber, and he rips out an entire red snapper attached to a drum attached to the line still, pulls it on, and for the rest of my life, my dad has told that story as, oh yeah, Teyo, when he was a 10-year-old kid, had a fish on the line for 8 hours. And so that's been like our go-to funny fishing story. Silly question, what's your favorite new WLW Genshin ship, and any specific reason? I assume you mean gay, like Women Love Women one. I assume that's what WLW means. I'm kind of an old man whenever it comes to stuff like that. As far as like lesbian Genshin characters, my favorite one, I don't know. The Clorind and Navia one has serious legs, personally, and I think it's the most compelling because the whole like killed her dad thing. But whether or not I like it, I don't know how realistic or viable it is. I just like it. I just think it has the best legs to stand on, and it has the most interesting and dramatic relationship problems. I think Raiden and Yaimiko are practically canon. That's just a really solid one. Same with Beidou and Ningguang. I think both of those relationships are boring, but I think they feel the most canon. The like, oh yeah, that's just real. Same with like Jean and Lisa. It's not that I like the relationship, it's that it just is a relationship that is real. The one I like the most is probably Clorind and Navia because it's just interesting, it's dramatic, you know what I mean? What's my FBI agent's personality? Daryl is probably just a homie. He's probably new to the FBI and he's probably just super homie. Like, clearing my search history for whenever people check my phone or whatever. Like, just a cool guy, you know what I mean? Just doing his best. Just a new FBI agent. Just being a homie. One of the best ships, yeah. Clearview is your favorite, nice. They're so good. You go on about them for ages, nice. Yeah, I think most of the implied relationships and implied, like, kind of relationships in Genshin are just kind of boring to me. They're like, well, okay. Genshin characters have this problem about them. Every single one of them has this problem, with a couple of exceptions, and that is that they're written poorly. And being written poorly, their relationships are too. Because who wants to see two boring characters have a relationship? It's not entertaining, it's not interesting, right? It would be like hey, I have this really cool idea for this relationship. Oh, cool, who's it between? A coffee table and a coffee table. And you're like, okay, but do they have personalities? No, they're unspeaking and they're just coffee tables. They look nice, but they're just unsentient coffee tables. And you're like, so what's interesting about the relationship? And they're like, well, you see, they're both girls. And it's like, but they're coffee tables. Who cares? And that's how I feel about a lot of Genshin characters. Their personalities are flat and disinteresting and boring and one note, right? Or convoluted and not interesting because there's so many things that they're nothing, right? So, like, for instance, you can't say that Farina is one note. She's certainly not, right? But you can say that Farina is wildly convoluted, which is kind of the point, but it's just a little overdone. And that's probably a translation error mixed with, like, how the video game industry works of people adding lines when they don't need to be lines and vice versa. And I don't blame anyone who conceptualized the characters or wanted their personalities to be a certain way, but rather I blame the entire, like, way it had to have come together, right? And so, as such, Farina being in a relationship with anyone isn't interesting to me because I don't find her character interesting. The reason I like the Navia and Clorinde ship is because, like, they have conflict, you know what I mean? They're actively, like, best of friends, but she, like, killed her dad, and the other girl watched her kill her dad. Like there's serious, interesting stakes in that relationship, and I find that really interesting. Whereas other relationships, it's like, oh, cool, a character I'm not interested in and another character I'm not interested in are going to do stuff that I don't care about, right? No, I don't mean to insult other ships that people like or characters that people like. It's just the way that I feel. Lipstick scene, I don't even know what that one is. You think a lot of their relationships are amazing and they have a ton of depth? Fair, yeah, you're welcome to think that. Rizzing up one of the homies in Discord? Oh, jeez. You really like Kaveh and Alhaitham? Yeah, I like that one too. They don't have any sort of depth, but they do have banter. Really good banter. And that's like, I love that trope in a relationship of like, just quality banter and getting onto each other. I love that sort of thing. It's a very Finch and I kind of a relationship. We have depth too, but we have a lot of banter, and it's really funny to me, and I enjoy those kind of relationships. So yeah, I like Alhaitham Kaveh as well. But like, I don't know, I could never ship a character like Bennett with anyone because Bennett feels so one tone and like not a super interesting character. And I feel that about a lot of the characters in the game. Right, like Jean and Lisa aren't that interesting despite their relationship being kind of cool. They're just, like, one's just a horny librarian who goes a little too far in certain jokes on purpose, and the other one is like a tired, overworked person taking up someone else, a vice principal, right? And that's just, those are just character tropes. Like, that's not a character, and that, I don't find that interesting, you know? Not only Genshin, but Hoyo generally has poor story delivery, so you kind of relate it, yeah. And again, I'm not crapping on Hoyoverse, I'm not crapping on the writers and all the hard work that goes into it, but rather, it's a mix of, like, translation errors, the bulkiness of how studios work, right? Like, a writer writes a really concise thing, and then a studio executive says, hey, wait a second, we need more information in this, the audience won't know what's happening. And the writer has to dumb down the sentence, and this repeats because there's like 40 people in the chain of command who have to all see it and all approve it. And it just makes dialogue and character writing a mess. And that's why smaller projects usually get away with better writing. And bigger projects have better things like graphics and visuals and gameplay, but often have much worse writing because there's too many people involved. And the more people you have involved in writing, the worse the writing gets, in my experience. So no shade at Hoyoverse or any of the people working there, but rather the process that makes it happen, I think, is the reason the characters are weak. Our banter is one of favorite features of us as a couple. Yeah, it's getting late. You should go take your shower. Yeah, you should. Have a good night, Fusion. The thing you love most about them is the conflict, guilt, Distance herself. Yeah. I agree. I love the conflict. With Kaveh and Al Haytham, you can send you a thing about them because they actually do have a ton of depth. You believe so many little things about them builds a relationship. You love them. Well, yeah. And when I say they don't have a lot of depth, I don't mean anything by that. I just mean like most of the relationship that fans have built around them, most of the shipping that has happened is because of the banter, and I love banter. The lore getting too good though. Yeah, actually, it's about 9:18. We're gonna take. Give me one or two more good questions, or ask for another story, and I think that'll be where we end it for the night. So yeah, if you guys can come up with any more cues, and I'll give you some A's. Let's do that. Also, this microphone looks way closer to me on camera than it actually is. It's like my whole arm distance away, and I'm still not touching it. It's weird how cameras do that with depth. That's why fight scenes look so good, because you can have a person like 10 feet away and the other person like punching them and it looks like they're hitting them, right? You and Finch first date? Oh, frick, what was our first date? I think we did like a digital one last year while I was living with my parents. Like, we watched a movie. Yeah, we watched Jujutsu Kaisen 0, which is a phenomenal movie. I really like it. But Finch didn't tell me until afterwards that she couldn't see like any of the animation because of what we did. It was like so low quality, so she couldn't see any of it. And she didn't tell me until afterwards. And I was like, no, you missed the best part of the movie. The animation's so good. So I watched Jujutsu Kaisen while Finch pretended to watch Jujutsu Kaisen, but really watched a slideshow. Holy crap, that does look insanely close. Yeah, no, full arm distance away. You didn't want to spoil the date? Well, yeah, but like afterwards when you told me, I was like, oh, frick. So the date was like, it was spoiled by that already, by the bad Wi-Fi. I'm going to take a quick bathroom break. I will be right back. And when I get back, I expect some solid questions. Hey, I'm back. So, Aubrey asked a pretty good question while I was gone, which is, do I have a favorite content creator or someone that I look up to? That's a really good question. So, I have two answers to this. As far as a content creator I really like, not really. I find myself watching content on specific topics. So, like, Every now and then I'll look up cooking stuff, and there's a couple of cooking people I like Mythical Kitchen or Joshua Wiseman. But there's not like a really specific one that I'm like, oh, I watch them all the time just to binge. Hey, Ning Guang, nice. And then other content creators I really like are a couple of D&D people that I don't remember the name of, or there's a couple of Magic the Gathering content creators I watch because I play a lot of Magic the Gathering, so like the Command Zone are pretty good. Let me think. Are there any... What are some other content creators? I don't know about specific content creators, especially because lately I've found myself on a lot of YouTube shorts, more so than videos. But I do watch a lot of videos still. Legends of Evantris is one of my favorite D&D content creators. Ginny D is pretty good. Zach the Bold is a really good content creator. I used to watch a lot of PC building and computer parts YouTube content because I was like working on building a computer or working on buying a computer for like 6 months. So I watched a lot of those. I used to watch a lot of business and success in YouTube content creators, but I don't know. What I watch changes a lot, and what I like changes a lot because what I need changes. And I only watch big videos because I need to, or just for fun stuff. Oh, so for instance, Dropout had a huge series of podcasts where Brennan Lee Mulligan talked to a guest about D&D, and I watched a bunch of those, like hours of those, while I was doing like a cleaning job. So I love that content. Yeah, anyways. You've been a Mythical fan since you were like 8. Nice. And then someone I look up to. So there's what you meant, I assume, is content creators I look up to, and there's a couple. The main of which are the people who make it really big, who make all the money in the world, who are famous everywhere they go, who are made into memes, who everybody knows. The people who do that, but still remain people. So for instance, it's hard to look at the really successful Twitch people like Kai Cenat or Ludwig and not feel like they've inflated themselves, like their ego is greater. And nothing against those people specifically. They're just the first two people I can think of. So like content creators like Markiplier or PewDiePie, it feels like people like them, they've gotten really big and then they decided, cool, now I'm going to donate to charities. Now I'm going to reconnect with my fans as much as I can. Now I'm going to be low key because I can, and I have a family and I want to support them and love them and be happy. Not want to get clout and be super hyper famous, make all the money forever, right? They have enough, and so they settle. And I think that that's something really important because absolute power corrupts absolutely, and it's really impressive to me that they can stop wanting things, stop being greedy, stop trying to get money, because that's something that I have a hard time with whenever I find success. And so yeah, those types of people really important to me. I think that's who I look up to the most in the YouTube world. But what you didn't really mean in your question is personal people in my life. But there are a few people I look up to from my actual life that I actually know. So like, I'm a pretty religious person. I grew up in a church, and in that church we had classes called seminary where we learned about the scriptures and the gospel and all that stuff. And one of my seminary teachers, he was in his 80s. He had served in the military around the Vietnam War time. He served a mission in Africa and learned like 3 African languages. He was a really cool, really well-rounded guy. But what I remember the most about them is, despite all of his great, vast knowledge, he was so humble. He never stopped learning things. He never came to assumptions about people based on what they said. He asked them questions. Whenever someone said something and everyone else went, oh, that guy, he would go, yeah, tell me about that. And then he'd have a conversation with them, and he'd come to understand them, and he loved people as individuals, and he was a really important part of my growing up. He was a really great guy. So he's someone I look up to a lot, and I hope to become a lot like. Lainey, welcome to chat. Merry Christmas. You passed out. Oh, I hope you're okay. Tonight we're doing questions and answers and story time. Brindley Mulligan is so cool. I love Brindley Mulligan, dude. He's the best. He's one of the funniest people. He was raised to play D&D professionally. If you've looked into his backstory and his life, it's hilarious. Jacksepticeye is a lot like that. You feel it's one of his goals as a creator, actually, to feel more human. Yeah, I love content creators who have made it crazy big. They've become household names, and they're still just people. They're just human beings who are kind and interact with people reasonably. And I think that's so good. That is something, that's a goal, right? Obviously, I want to get big and make a lot of money like everybody does. Everyone needs money to survive, right? And this is a job I enjoy. So I'd love for it to be a money-making thing for me. I mean, technically I do make a little bit of money from this, but you know what I mean. I want to be able to support myself. And the idea that they can, and they don't let it get to their heads, and they're still the good people they were when they got into it, is just monolithic to me. It's impressive and wonderful, and it's a goal of mine, you know? Corey X Kinchin is another one who's always connected with this community. Yeah. I think if I was to get famous, I would definitely do tours the way Game Grumps do, where I, go places to meet fans. Oh yeah, Game Grumps is another great one. Those guys rule. I love Game Grumps. I watch a lot of their content whenever I'm, cleaning or working and I need an earbud in. You only know Brindley Mulligan from Game Changers. Fair, it's great. Watch something of his D&D content. There's a lot of D&D content of his. Check it out. He's very passionate and he's very good at it. And you'll learn a lot about D&D by watching his podcast stuff. He does a lot of cool stuff. Your Siri's going to start questioning while you're Googling how much water should you drink. Oh, gosh. Through your YouTube short doom scrolling? Dude, same. Definitely check his D&D stuff out. Yeah. He's got a series of videos where he interviews people and talks about D&D stuff with them. And they're great. Half of them are literally just talking about the wonderful things about D&D and how it makes people come together. You need to go back and watch the VOD. Yeah. I think I'm going to turn this into an actual YouTube video and do some editing on it. Lainey, do you have a question for me before we end stream? We're going to end probably after the next question. So if you've got a question for me, go for it. If not, you guys can ask me a story. I'll tell a story. Whatever, you know. Yeah, good question, Aubrey. That's a really good one. Fusion, you keep saying you're gonna leave. And you still have not. Oh, my hot chocolate's gotten cold. Now it's just thick chocolatey water. You expect the video to be edited by the time you check YouTube after stream ends? What the hell? I'm going to bed when the stream ends, brother. I've got crap to do in the morning. What's your most funny yet embarrassing moment with Finch? Ooh, that is a really good one. Do I have a funny, embarrassing moment with Finch? I'm sure I do. We've been goobers for 2 years together. The thing is all of our stories embarrass one of us at most, and it's usually Finch. So I don't want to tell anything that embarrasses Finch too much. Especially because she's not... Oh, you are here to defend yourself. The JJK thing from earlier? No, certainly not. We've done much more embarrassing things. Okay, so... we were in a park on campus. It was like a big area of grass on campus at our college. We're some friends from college. They were doing pictures or something, or a video. I don't remember what they were doing. But in that area, they're doing something. And Finch and I were bored waiting for them. And so we're sitting in the grass nearby. And we start wrestling and beating the crap out of each other. Because that's just what we did randomly. So we're rolling around in the grass, making wrestling noises as you do. Whatever. And at some point, one of our friends pops up out of the darkness because it's at nighttime. And they go, guys, you got to stop wrestling on the grass. And we're like, what? We're fine. Look, we're being safe. We're being nice or whatever. I'm not hurting Finch. Finch hasn't kicked me in the head or anything. And they go, no, you keep making weird noises and everyone thinks you're having sex in the dark. And we're like, oh, frick. And so and this was while I was in a really serious relationship. I was married to someone else at the time, and Finch and I were just friends, and we're just like wrestling, just roughhousing. And so this guy just comes out of the dark and is like, "Are you guys having sex?" And we're like, "No, please, wait, wait, wait." Hey, Matt, good to see you. Wait, Teyo's married? Yeah, watch the VOD, dude. It's been answered already. Yeah, I guess. So tonight has been a stream of telling stories, asking questions, getting answers. I figured it would be a fun Christmas stream to do for you guys. If you guys have any questions before we end, ask them now or forever hold your peace. To give you, Lainey, Matt, since you both just got here, to give you a little bit of information, I have a really bad, well, I have a lot of mental disorders, one of which didn't come to pass as being, how do I put this? I didn't know about it until I was in my 20s. A lot of mental disorders don't manifest until you are in your 20s. And it manifested, and it was really bad, and it was compiled onto a marriage that had some other rough things about it. So all of that stress on top of it, my mental disorder flaring up as bad as it did, and us finding out about it, led to some serious problems that were both the other person's fault and my fault, and no one's fault, you know what I mean? And so it led to a divorce. And we were married for about 4 years before that happened. And so, yeah, it was a big turning point and change and big problem in my life. And it was the thing that led me to getting a lot of mental help that I desperately needed and that I had been avoiding for as long as I had known that I needed it. And so, yeah, that's the Teyo lore that you guys missed earlier. I've been married before. I was married for 4 years. And then a combination of poor relationship skills and not holding up the parts of the relationship the two of us were responsible for, mixed with and on top of a new disorder that we didn't understand that was kind of wrecking my life and ruining everything. All that compiled with other issues to lead to a bad place. And so, yeah, that's just how it went down. And I don't like to speak ill of the other person. I don't like to speak ill of the marriage. Sometimes bad things happen and lives get ruined, and you do your best to move on, you know? And I have. It's been over a year, and my life couldn't be better. You know what I mean? I'm doing something I love. I have viewers who really enjoy hanging out with me, and that's the most meaningful thing. And I have a relationship that's really important. That's getting really serious and is really good. Finch and I love each other a bunch, and that's really cool. Yeah. How did Finch and I meet? That was a question asked today. Somebody asked earlier, so it's definitely in the VOD if you want to go to YouTube and watch it. And actually, I'm gonna edit this video into a whole thing, make it more succinct and clear and nice, and do some editing on it, so it's not like an hour and a half of me rambling. But it's just an hour of me rambling. but yeah, let me check the chat, see what I've missed. How young did I get married? I was 20. I was just about to turn 21, I think. Yeah, I'm pretty sure our first birthday together I was 21. So I'm pretty sure we got married right before I turned 21. And we got a divorce in the year 2023. And so, yeah. Teyo the Wise, the Great Mage. Now you're starting to tear up. Oh, no, I don't mean to make anybody sad. Suddenly curious, but do you have any memories from abroad? From abroad? What do you mean by that? Guys, it's okay. Life is in such a better place now than it was. And sometimes hard stuff is going to happen regardless of if it needs to and regardless of anything else. And that's okay. You just pick yourself up, you know? Like in foreign countries. Oh, I've been to foreign countries before. Actually, the person I was married to, her parents lived in Germany, and so the first time I left Germany, the first time I left America was to meet her family for Christmas a few years ago, like 5 years ago. And so I went to Germany, and we went to France for a little bit, and we visited some castles and stuff. That was actually really cool. And it was around Christmas time, so there was a couple of, what are they called? They're like Christmas, like, festival things. The Christmas market, maybe? I don't remember what they're called. They're very German tradition. They had some cool stuff there. There was ice skating, but I didn't want to try it, so I didn't. I got kind of sick at some point halfway through and threw up in a trash can in public. And to the rest of the German populace, I just looked like a drunk guy. I don't drink, by the way, but like I just threw up super hard in a trash can, and everybody looked at me like that was super normal. So, I also lived most of my young childhood right around New Orleans, and New Orleans, for anybody who doesn't know, for anybody from America or from outside of America, New Orleans is a city in Louisiana that is basically a European city in America. You can drink in the streets. Most bartenders give out alcohol before, like when people turn 16. It's a very European city. It just happens to be in America. And so I grew up there. And so I grew up with a lot of European philosophy and stuff. Like a lot of people spoke Cajun French around me and so forth. Seemed like a man that went to Germany. What does that even mean? But yeah, so the only countries I've been to outside of America is Germany, France, and then I had like a plane stop somewhere else in Europe. I just don't remember where off the top of my head. I just remember having to go through customs a second time and then going, frick, why do I... Gosh dang it. Because it was a pain in the butt. If it isn't you, Teyo, I'm really glad you're doing great. Oh, thank you. You're just remembering an old relationship you was in that had an amazing time, but then when she left, she wasn't mentally mature and was still learning about themselves. Yeah. Stuff like that happens, and obviously, the best time to work it out is when you're not married, when you don't have a serious commitment to the other person. And sometimes you do. You have a serious commitment, and sometimes things fall apart and fail, and that's just the way that it is. You know, life isn't about a fairy tale ending. Life is about doing the best you can in an imperfect world with imperfect people, with an imperfect self, you know? So don't get down when tragedies happen. Move forward, right? Which is easy to say when you're in a good mood, but is ultimately the best thing to do, is to forgive other people, forgive yourself, and do your best. And yeah, I hope you're okay, Matt. It is really funny that you said I seem like a person who's been to Germany. It's funny, when I was in Germany, the best food I had is a Middle Eastern food called doner kebabs. Those were so freaking good. It was like shawarma meat, like the big cone of meat that they like cut down inside of a piece of like naan or pita bread cut open, just like stuffed in there with like sauce and stuff like that. Those were the bomb. The McDonald's in Germany was so weird. It had currywurst, which is cuts of bratwurst, like cut up pieces of bratwurst, and like curry sauce on top. And it had like shrimp in the McDonald's, not like deep fried, like random like fast food popcorn shrimp. It had like shrimp, like seasoned and grilled in like little cardboard containers. It was so weird. The McDonald's in Germany was so weird. Also, honestly, Germany just felt like America in the 2000s. There wasn't Wi-Fi anywhere. You couldn't get refills at any of the restaurants. Everything was super expensive. It just felt like recession 2008 America, if that makes sense. But it was beautiful. There's a lot of cool like architecture and stuff, and a lot of the food was really enjoyable. So that was cool. Been a few months now. You're fine. You just really miss him. That sucks, man. I'm sorry to hear it. Yeah, life happens, you know. I do seem like someone that went to Germany. What does that even mean? Tomorrow you spend nearly $1,000 on a new computer and a bunch of animating stuff. Yikes, that's a lot of money. I hope you really enjoy your purchase. I spent about $1,000 on my setup too, and I really enjoy it. It's really meaningful to me. but it's still a lot of money, and I acknowledge that. And I don't know if I would do it again or if I'd get a cheaper one, but you've never had a shawarma before, though. You need to eventually. You love shawarma, just need to find a place that makes them good. Yeah, so I'm actually these days working in an Indian restaurant, and they have like a tandoori oven, which is like a hole in the ground with fire coming out of it, and you slap like dough against the wall, and it bakes there. And dude, let me tell you, fresh naan bread out of a tandoori oven is so good. It's ridiculous. Anyways, I digress. Also, can you see PC Specs in Discord? I can do you one better. Go to any of my long form YouTube videos. Just go to Teyo's Trying YouTube. Click on any of the YouTube videos in the videos section, and then go to the description, and you can find the Amazon link to all of my equipment. To my mouse and keyboard, to my microphone kit, to my lighting kit, to my PC, because it's a pre-built that I changed out the fan. That's it. To my camera, to my computer screen, all of it. Yeah, go to my YouTube, click on a video, you'll find it. You've heard of that? You've heard of the tandoori oven? Oh, it's the best. Naan bread is so good. You're buying a Mac Mini and then spending the rest on software courses and a decent keyboard and mouse. Good luck, man. I hope it turns out for you and you really enjoy the stuff you buy. Anyways, this has been wonderful. I went a little over time, but I've honestly really enjoyed this, you guys. If you guys want to see more of this, just tell me. Tell me in the comments down below. Tell me in Twitch chat. Tell me in the community Discord. I appreciate you guys. Y'all are one of the best, if not the best part of this whole year that I've had streaming, making content, hanging out with you guys. I can't say enough how much I care for all of you and how much I appreciate the community that we've built. Yeah, as always, love you guys. Have a good night. Merry Christmas. We'll see you tomorrow. I can't see the end stream button because it's so far away. Here we go. Anyways, sorry. Love you guys. Have a good night.